Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the news that came out a couple days ago about a Constantine TV show reboot on HBO Max. In particular, this Constantine potentially connecting to, the Justice League Dark series situation, J.J. Abrams is behind. Obviously, news came out about that like a while back, and it seems like we're kind of getting a little far up on it. The article in particular I was reading, and maybe a lot of other articles are saying this, we're suggesting that nothing has been confirmed, that even HBO Max hasn't said anything, at least at the time of me recording this. Maybe things will change in the time between this being recorded and it uploaded. But yeah, I talked about this a little bit before, like I said, when the news came out about JJ being connected to the Justice League Dark property. Obviously, it's not something I'm that familiar with, obviously, but obviously it's like the more, the side of the Justice League side of things that handle the more sinister, like I think the more like horror, supernatural side of the DC universe. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with the Constantine reboot. From what I was seeing, they are saying that this one's going to handle the more I think horror elements. I think because, and it said in particular not the religious elements. I guess the movie handled more of on the religious element. Yeah, because I remember hearing there was going to be some rumors about like Keanu Reeves, Constantine getting a sequel. There was still some stuff about that, and obviously I am a big fan of Matt Ryan's Constantine, both the series that was sadly short-lived, but obviously he got to continue the character on in the Arrowverse on the CW, and obviously his first appearance in season 4 of Arrow, but subsequently since he's been a part of the Legends, which I really like the dynamic and where his story has gone and just the growth of his story. And because it's a match made in heaven. You never would have thought like, oh, the Legends, as crazy and wild as they are and so on, it's like dark and kind of messed up as Constantine, and it works so well. Like how, I love that. I am kind of bummed to know like, all right, we're not acknowledging Matt Ryan's, but also that's kind of where the DC is. Some people might have an issue with that because you're always going to have the apples and oranges comparison of like, well, look what Marvel's doing with TV and so on and so forth. I'm kind of fine with them all doing kind of their own thing. Like I'm sure like, because especially because they're going with like a younger Constantine is for this. They're, like I said, they're also focusing on the horror element. That hasn't really been something. It's been there, like the supernatural element has been there with like Legends a lot, definitely the supernatural element, but not the more horror element. So I'd be curious to see them kind of tackle that. Obviously, it's something I've wanted, because obviously he's part of the Justice League Dark, is obviously the whole Swamp Thing situation. Because obviously, if you're unaware, Swamp Thing was a show in the DC universe, but it was sadly canceled after one season. There was a lot of production issues. Like we'll leave it just kind of at that, because even then I'm still not in the ins and outs of it. That's a show I would want to come back. This might, and I've talked about it before, that this might be a situation where they just reboot the entire thing, which I think is kind of a bummer, because I think because they did a really interesting thing with that, where they did kind of go into more horror element. It might not be as heavy in the horror realm as they might be going with the Constantine series, but I think this would be a neat time to connect them, especially with a lot of DC stuff going to HBO Max now. So I think that'd be an opportunity, since you already have Titans, Doom Patrol, that'd be a great opportunity to bring Swamp Thing back and kind of fold it into that, because obviously you already have an established world to a certain extent in that regard. But also, like, because of the Arrowverse and everything, we are setting up a multiverse. So for there to be another Constantine out there isn't the biggest, leap, It's like, because, where things kind of stand because of Crisis on Infinite Earths, like a lot of this stuff is under the same umbrella, but whether they'll really handle it like that, because obviously the Flash stuff is doing the Flash stuff in the movie, and obviously the Flash stuff did the Flash stuff on the TV shows, which, like I said, which once again, both Flashes met each other during Crisis, so I don't know. To me, I look at this all still being connected. It's the multiverse stuff. I'm kind of fine with you being able to do, I like everything being under the same continuity, at least the illusion of it all being under the same continuity, because I think it leaves you the opportunity to kind of do whatever you want to. Like, I'm sure this will all get, I'm sure it also depends on like how the Flash stuff handles the whole Flashpoint thing, whether it kind of acknowledges what happened during Crisis or not. They might not, it might have just been a wink and nod, but I feel like that opened up the world to like connecting not just all the TV shows, but all the movies, and not just all the TV shows that are still around. Like a lot of DC stuff got connected because of that. But regardless, tangents and all that. Like I said, this is a conversation I've had before, but like I said, I'm kind of bummed, but I'm still excited to see what they do with it, because like regardless of like, oh, it'd be cool if it was Matt Ryan's doing his own thing on Legends of Tomorrow, and I think that's perfectly fine. They want to kind of do something kind of, you know, go a little younger and lean even more heavily into the horror side of things. Like I said, at the time of recording this, HBO hasn't even been like, oh yeah, this is happening, so maybe this is just rumor mill, but even if it is, it's still just kind of, you know, interesting stuff to kind of talk about, especially with the whole leaning into the more the horror things, and also going into a more younger Constantine, because most stuff that's done, you know, even the movie and even, you know, the TV show, and obviously where he is continuity wise in the Arrowverse, we're dealing with a Constantine that's kind of in the aftermath of everything. Because I don't know whether they're going to say like, oh, what his story is, the whole Astra thing, like, is that going to be like, is that going to be stuff that happened to his younger days and we're still dealing with the early days of that, or has he not even gotten to that part of his story, because maybe that's later on? Because I think Astra stuff, at least like some of the continuity set it up to be like, because I know there's a cartoon that kind of, it's, you know, Matt Ryan voicing it, that kind of showed him being younger during that. So I'm curious to see how they handle it. I'm not that well versed in the character, I'm not well versed in the comic books in general, but I'm still excited to ultimately see what they end up doing with the show, and potentially what this means building out, you know, the rest of the Justice League Dark roster, because I talked about it before. I know that includes Zatanna, and I was like, that's a character I know like next to nothing about, but I think it'd be really cool to just full-blown magic it up, and just, you know, because there's also talked about, oh, maybe this means that like a lot of each respective people from the Justice League Dark will get their own show, and the comparison made was kind of like how Netflix, you know, built up to the Defenders type of situation. So obviously, these are just my thoughts. I'd love to get to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you excited for a Constantine reboot? Are you someone that's like, you would have preferred to see like a sequel of Keanu Reeves? Or maybe you're someone that's like, no, I wish Matt Ryan had a chance, because yeah, he had the show, and yes, he's kind of get his opportunity to continue Constantine's story through the Arrowverse, with in particular Legends, but it's still, some people are probably like, I would have liked to, you know. But it's probably also the thing of like also going darker. That wasn't an opportunity they probably really had being on NBC. But regardless, like I said, just let me know your thoughts about everything in the comments down below. What are some things you'd want to see? What are some things you expect to see? But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.